Hi, everybody. After a few-week hiatus, welcome back to Health Hangouts with Amanda. This series started as with the purpose of spreading strength, hope, and love for those who are struggling to kind of cope with the pandemic and losing their jobs and being at home all the time, with the kids, etc. So a few months ago, I interviewed a ton of people, and we aired those episodes back to back. So now it's a little bit different. We are continuing the series, but the series is kind of transforming into a place where we can just talk about anything. There's a lot of political unrest that's happening in the world right now, as well as a lot of inequality issues. So we are still here to spread strength, hope, and love, but it's not just now about the coronavirus that's plaguing us, and it still is. So these conversations may include that topic, may include other topics, but it's now kind of widening to be inclusive of any other topics that people might be passionate to talk about. So today I have Tracy Boccini here with me. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you. Tracy and I have not met before. We have a mutual friend named David who has connected us, and yeah, so I invited Tracy to come on and talk about what they're doing. She's doing her family system to kind of handle the things that are happening in the world. What she's passionate about. She runs it's called CHIMO Refuge, and Tracy, can you just remind me what the subtitle of that is? Like what?
It's a Treehouse resort. So
that's right.
Yeah,
Treehouse
exactly.
Resort. Right. So we're going to talk to Tracy about what she's doing. This is a family-run business, and so she'll talk about that, as well as likely we'll have the conversation about things that some of you might relate to, some of the viewers out there. So if you have any questions or you wish to speak to Tracy after this, like, you can certainly send me a message and then I can connect you. But I encourage you to stay tuned so you can kind of hear what unfolds. As some of you who have been our viewers in the past, some of you may know already, we don't know what's going to unfold in this conversation. And that's why we call it a hangout, because it's as though we're meeting as friends and we're just getting to know each other. So I'm just gonna ask Tracy questions as they arise, and then we'll see where it rolls. So welcome, everybody. And thanks, Tracy, for donating your time to be here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's absolutely my pleasure.
Oh, wonderful. And thank you for being so brave too, because you mentioned, there's like, everyone has this like sense of camera shyness that I've worked with. Like, they're like, oh, what's this going to be like? And some people are really new to this. So I just love that you were brave and you were like so on top of it, and you were like really excited to kind of do some prep in the background. It was impressive to me. Like, I was moved by that. So appreciate it. I'd like to hand it over to you and have you introduce yourself in perhaps a more detailed way than I was able to. And then we can just kind of take this wherever you want to take it. I want to learn about you. I want to know about your passions and visions in the world. I want to understand about what you're doing with the business, but also how you are navigating the world as it is now, and where you live, if you want to share that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, hi, I'm Tracy Boccini. I am the Vice President of CHIMO Refuges, Treehouse Resort in St Sauveur, Quebec. My husband had built this we're on our 10th year now. And it's going so swimmingly, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful place. My husband used to work at the municipality of Morin Heights, and he always had it in the back of his head. I want to do something special. I want to do something special. And he already lived on 2 acres of land. He had bought a small little house next to his parents' place on the top of a mountain, just off of an old ski hill. And when he was working at the municipality, he says, no, I've got to change. I've got to do something. I've got to change something. He had done, quite a bit of travel in Costa Rica when he was younger, and always lived in these little cabinas. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to be able to bring that kind of energy over to home, instead of being behind a desk and just going, oh God, why am I doing this? There's got to be something more. And so finally he and his father bought another 3 acres in between both houses, and he started clearing the forest and started building you know, building CHIMO Refuge. It started off with, I believe it was a teepee and a prospector's tent. And
Wow.
then it went to 2 tree houses. You call it in French, it's a camp bûcheron, like a lumberjack's camp. And we did one of a container. We got one container, and we've got another one that's just absolutely gorgeous. It's called the Cube. So it's very stylized, very stylized cabin. And everything that we've got here, all of the wood comes from our forests here. We have a mobile sawmill. So Keith did all of the sawing of the wood and everything else, and everything is recuperated or recycled or upcycled. So every cabin has really a really unique feel to it. Here, I'll pull up just a couple of pictures to just let you
Sure.
see.
It sounds very innovative, and it sounds like, you know, this idea that, you know, when people are kind of stuck and they're working a desk job and they're like, oh, there's got to be more to this life. Like, this is a really excellent theme that a lot of people do struggle with. It's like, what can I do that's more than this? Like, I really don't like what I'm doing here. And so he started with just like a teepee, like, let's clear some land and let's start somewhere. And
Yep.
that's a beautiful message to people who feel like they're stuck or they're unemployed. It's like, start somewhere, do something, make a plan, create connections. So I love that, because that's what I'm taking away from what you're saying, is that there's been this 10 years of growth and brilliance
Yeah,
in just starting with a teepee.
exactly. And every single
Right?
one of the cabins has a soul of its own. Like, this is a real tree house. There's
Right.
a tree
So
going right
what we're
through the,
doing, so I don't know how this whole recording thing works. I just want to like interject and say, for those viewers who are watching, please let us know if you can't see the pictures right now. Because if you can't see them, then I want you to be able to see them. I can see them, and I hope that the viewers can see them. It's recording it also. So keep going. Like, this is beautiful.
yeah, that was one of the, that one I think was the first one that he did. And I mean, the whole floor is all custom painted, and it's got this, like, it's almost looks like you're looking from the top down, from the tree. And you've got a beautiful bubble window, and we had some really nice, like, he had woofers come in over 2-year period. And woofers are basically, they're volunteers. It's sort of a work sharing program, volunteers. Most of the people came from France, and they love doing the lumberjack thing. So we had them coming in and cutting trees and building, and it was just an exciting time for everybody, you know. So then you got this one, that's the Stella, that's the other tree house, and you got the tree coming right up the center of it. And there's
Yeah,
the
and you
most,
just have like this paradise, right? Like, it's just in the middle of the forest.
yeah, exactly. And every
Wow.
single cabin has its own soul, you know, its own different feel to it. And that's the
Is this the
newest.
cube?
No, that's the container.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the container. And then here's the cube.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. So
It's
I mean,
very
it's
modern, creative.
exactly. And he had, here, I'll switch it back off for a couple of seconds. Yeah. So he had spent, like, this man he's a genius. Yes, I know he's my husband, but he's a genius, you know. He's got one of the most beautiful imaginations that I've ever met, you know. So he started with this dream, and I came in, well, we met 4 years ago, and we both got out of marriages, and we met 4 years ago when both of us were ready to do it, you know, ready to meet somebody. And 2 years ago, I started working with him. He goes, okay, Trace, come on, you know, come and work with me now. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm ready to do it, you know. So it's such an interesting place to be. All of the cabins have their own style. They're intimately set, because we only have 5, and they're just a beautiful intimate setting. They're far enough away from one another, so you don't really
There's
hear it.
privacy, and
Yeah. So you know, so that's sort of my story so far, and you know, as the world turns, Chimo style. But
something else, Tracy, that I love that you've said is how you've promoted so wholeheartedly this character of your husband, right? Like, that's really beautiful that we can, you know, we get married to someone, and then we have this bond with them, and we you know, despite the challenges, which I imagine you've had, like
Yeah.
everybody has challenges in relationship, right? Despite those challenges, you can sit here today, you know, 4 years later, and say like, well, this man is really brilliant, and I respect him and admire him greatly.
Oh,
And I'm moved by that. You know, I think that's really wonderful. And I think part of that comes from, you know, as a counselor, I work a lot with well, individuals, couples on various types of issues. And when people come to couples counseling, often they don't have great things to say about each other, right? And they're having
mhm.
trouble, and the relationship is falling apart, or however you want to call it. And so, yeah, so it's really beautiful to hear this perspective of what we might classify as a healthy marriage, and you coming
Yeah.
forward and saying like, he's really brilliant, and I work with him, and as you talk about it, the excitement of what you guys are doing is shining through, right? And it's so beautiful that even despite the challenges, that you can embrace that and hold your husband in high regard.
Oh, I do. He's such a wonderful, wonderful man. He's my best friend. He's my
Mhm.
confidant. He's the love of my life. You know, I couldn't ask for anything more. You know, I really couldn't. And the
Mhm.
two of us are absolute best friends, and we laugh constantly. The both of us have the same type of sense of humor. Like for instance, during our first date, we met on Plenty of Fish, a dating site.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's common.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
we ended up meeting at this sushi restaurant, and he sits down and he goes, you know, Trace, what do you think the meaning of life is? And I go, well, 42, of course, which is basically a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas
Okay.
Adams.
Yeah.
And he just looks
Yeah.
at me and he, oh, I really like you, you know. So, and we get each other, you know. And
Mhm.
like his kids and I, we get along amazingly well. Like uh, his ex-wife and I, Audrey, are amazingly close to one another.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so you mentioned you both came from divorces, right?
Yeah.
Or dissolved relationships. And so I mean, I certainly won't put words in your mouth, but generally when we come from divorces, or when we go through those, we're no stranger to pain and sorrow and dysfunction and fighting and hard stuff. So there are, you know, there are a lot of people out there, and some people who might be watching, who are like, oh wow, like I'm really happy for Tracy that she's happy, but like, how do I get there? You know, can you speak just a little bit, and we'll get to CHIMO again,
Yeah,
CHIMO in
yeah,
a
yeah.
bit,
No
but
worries.
can you speak a little bit to um, what it was like for you to start to step into what I would call more your truth,
Hmm.
and that opened the door to actually being able to meet him, because prior to meeting him, you didn't know he existed. You didn't know that that could be a thing, that this, what you experience now, could be a thing. You didn't know those things, right? How do we get to that place? Because there might be people listening who are interested in that, who are like, well, I'm not happy in my relationship, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, I can speak for myself. You know, at
Mhm.
this point, I was married for 20 years
Okay.
to a wonderful man. We're still very, very close friends. But it just we were on a completely different path. I was involved in his business. He owns a windsurfing company called Two Rad.
Mhm.
He's
Mhm.
exceptionally dedicated to it. And you know, we followed each other's paths for as long as we could. We gave it the old college try,
Mhm.
and you know, we both finally sat down and went, okay, you know what, let's just let's just try and get to know who we are as individuals, and let this go, and try and move on and move forward.
Mhm.
uh, you know, we gave each other building blocks to create, or gave ourselves new building blocks to be able to create a new foundation for happiness, for future happiness. You know, we didn't do a lot of talking in the first, say, year. I was still
Mhm.
working with him, doing his accounting and his books. But we didn't really have a lot of communication with each other because we needed that complete and total separation of emotion, of not seeing each other, of not reminding ourselves of what used to be. And just because of that, we developed a very close bond once again, but in a very different way. It was difficult, of course, you know, I mean, you've got two people who are living together and being together for 20 years of your lives, you know, from mid 20s to mid 40s. And you're going, okay, well, where do I go from here? You know, it was scary initially, of course, because all of a sudden you're not only thinking of the two of you, you know, it's you're not thinking of yourself as a couple. You all of a sudden have to think of yourself as an individual, you know, and not the extension of the other person. And that was a huge challenge, I believe, for the both of us. And we ended up reconnecting back again, and he's got a wonderful girlfriend. I've got a wonderful husband, and the two of us are constantly, you know, we talk. Well, now we're both busy, so we don't really talk all that often, but no, it's a very, very healthy place for us to be, because we never lost that sense of communication, nor that sense of respect for each other. Because just because a relationship ends doesn't mean that you have to lose the respect of the person that you spent a good portion of your life with. At least that's in my vision, you know. Other people's experiences obviously are very different than mine, but I find myself exceptionally lucky to have been part of his life, and now to still be part of his life, but as a friend.
It's beautiful, the energy that you show up with and the optimism that I see in what you're saying, right? You're saying like, this has been difficult, but we have this mutual respect that has stayed. And would it make sense to say that in order for us to have a continued respect for this person that we love or have loved in the past, means that we need to work on forgiveness and acceptance?
Yeah, and also, you know, I sort of used to look at my life as a solar system going around your head. You got your past, your present, and your future. And the problem is that having that past constantly going around your head and circling, you're never really getting beyond it. You're never getting beyond to really live into the present, because you have to go through this wall of the past. So it was learning how to look at my life in a linear fashion, like a library, this long library that just never ends. And hold on a second. Sorry, the girls are on their four-wheeler. So it was looking at my life like a library. The back of the library was the past. What's in front of me is the present, and I don't know. The books haven't been filled for the future yet. So it was a matter of taking all of the books that were basically on the floor that represented my life, that represented the issues of my life that I hadn't resolved yet, looking at each book, you know, book by book, and going, okay, no, I don't need this anymore, I'm going to file it. No, I don't need that anymore, I'm going to file it. And I just found myself, the floor of the library had been pretty well cleaned off, you know.
Right.
So
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'd like to use that if I can, like picking up these books and filing them, because we don't have use for them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But they're still in your library. It's still something that you can reference if you need to, about the lessons you've learned and what you're taking away from the interaction or the experience.
Exactly. You know, and I found myself, and it's funny, I was saying to a friend of mine yesterday that I said, if you constantly have your past circling around you like a solar system, you can't see the universe of possibilities, because you can't get past the detritus. So it's just taking everything and putting it in a linear fashion that just makes it a heck of a lot easier. And well, for me anyways, you know, it just, and I still go back every now and then. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I got over that. You know, it's like, but to bring it up as examples to you know, life examples for people, and even for myself, and go, you know, oh, I was in this position before, let's not go back there. Or this is the useful tidbit that I picked out of that experience that I can use, you know.
And you said earlier that you took a year where there was a separation there, where my interpretation of what you said is that you use that to heal, to kind of let the wounds, like, you know, heal, I guess is the best way to say it, but let sleeping dogs lie for a while.
Exactly.
Right. And can you tell me and whoever might be watching, like, why you chose to do that, or how that was most valuable to you.
Well, at 35, I had a decision to make. Do I want to live miserably, or do I want to live happily? I did have emotional issues. I am manic depressive. At 35, I decided, nope, that's it. I'm gonna find the right medication for myself. I'm gonna go into therapy. I'm gonna get myself taken care of and put a few more tools in my toolbox. And it was from that point on that all of a sudden, like, my eyes opened up and I just went, wait a minute, I don't have to be sad anymore. I don't have to be angry anymore. I can actually have a quality of life and provide that quality of life for myself, instead of going, oh, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, it's the job, it's the this, it's the that, you know? So it was a conscious decision. And one of the things that actually really helped me with that is I watched a documentary by Stephen Fry called The Secret Life of the Manic Depressive. And Stephen Fry is my hero. He's a national treasure in Britain, author, actor, philosopher, a debater, an orator, just an absolutely beautiful human being. And he did a 2-part documentary series on his experience with when he went through a nervous breakdown. And then he started talking to people, started to actors, to normal people, to, you know, to people who are parents of people who have issues, who people themselves have issues. And he had asked one question to everybody, and he says, if you could press a button and all of this would stop, your mind would stop racing, your thought patterns would change, would you do it? And about 80% of them said, no, I wouldn't change a thing. And that was one of the pivotal things that I sort of went, you know, really, if I pressed a button, would I, you know, would I want to get rid of this beautiful defective brain of mine? No, you know, because it does do amazing things, you know?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's awesome. So we will look up that. I haven't seen it, so I'm going to watch it for starters. We're going to, before we post this video to all the places, and I think that, like I said, YouTube, we'll have it on our website, we'll have it on our Facebook and our Instagram. But we'll also put the link to that documentary in there so people can actually watch it. Yeah, if they want to. That's awesome. So it's like this beautiful defective brain. I think that's what you said, and I love it because it has so many valuable attributes, and it's like, this is not a clinical term, but sometimes we can walk through this world and witness it as being like messed up. But the beauty of messed up is that it's all perfectly imperfect. It's like you can be exactly who you are, and you will learn from that, and then you grow from that. Perhaps you act differently in the future, perhaps you do the same thing, but that is up to you. Like, you are powerful in yourself, whether your brain is super fully functioning or it's not doing well in that, you know. Then we do this, we go up and down. So I love that, again, the optimism and the attitude that you show up with here. It's so cool because you're seeing like all of this was really hard, and this is how I took from it, and I'm growing from it. And now I'm in this place, I'm like, wow, I actually can be in charge of my own existence. I don't have to stay stuck in this past place that's going to overshadow everything that I'm doing. I don't have to be sad anymore. And you know, I want to say, like, I know for those of you who might be having, you know, perhaps an opinion about that, like, it's not that easy. That I can hear some people saying, well, it's not that easy just to like let go and like not be mad or upset anymore. And I get that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But it takes time, right? It's super hard, right? I mean, that's why we're talking about, like, you took that time to go to therapy and recognize, like, these are the things you needed to do. And then it was like one day you said this, and maybe I might ask a clarifying question, but one day you just realized you didn't have to be sad anymore. Like, what happened there? How did you get there?
Well, I don't know. There was just one point. I think I had spent about, I don't know, about 8 or 9 just absolutely terrible months. Like we were constantly going through, you know, ups and downs in the business, my ex-husband and I. And, you know, I just found myself just getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And one day I woke up and I went, okay, what is this really about? What do you really want out of this existence? You know, do you want to spend the rest of your life being angry and bitter and nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat worms? You know, so it was just like, okay, I took a conscious decision. Now, the thing is that just because you take a conscious decision doesn't mean that you're going to have to stop working on it one of these days. This is a lifelong, you know, I wouldn't say battle is a terrible word, but a lifelong project that you're gonna, well, that I undertook, that I just said, okay, well, I'm just not gonna take a little magic happy pill and go for 3 sessions and, oh, everything is gonna be okay. It's you know, you learn how to be more introspective. You learn how to go, okay, well, mindful about certain things, but even learning how to be mindful is a huge exercise, you know. So you're just constantly, like, I'm constantly working on myself. And Keith and I have this beautiful communicative relationship with one another. Even the kids and I have this beautiful communicative, you know, relationship. So it's about keeping the doors of communication open, verifying and clarifying, you know, if you don't understand. Like all of our favorite saying in the house is, what does that mean? You know.
It's true. It's true. Always asking that question, like, what does that actually mean? And you know, actually, in couples work, I have couples. They have to repeat back what they've heard, because oftentimes we hear something, we interpret it a certain way, and it could be inaccurate to what the person was trying to say, right? So then we respond without understanding, and then boom, now we have some kind of disagreement that could turn into a big fight. So I have them, I have them repeat back, like, what did you hear? What does that mean? I love it. So you're telling me it's like, this is a family system thing where you go, what does that mean? Everybody does this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So let's fast forward a bit and we'll come into kind of present day where you are now. You and your husband work diligently with the Refuge here. And so what's the primary population that you serve? And do you have any, like, is it a programmed refuge, or is it where people are independent, they come and they stay at these cabins kind of on their own and they come and go as they please? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it's basically, it's just like any resort. We got our resort status a few years ago. So really fought hard for that one.
Yeah, congratulations. Amazing.
So it's basically, we work on a reservation system. And it used to be that Keith would do everything by phone. And he would take reservations and, okay, well, I want the Sol for this date, or I want the Stella for that date. We'd section them off, and the people would come, they would bring up their stuff, their sleeping bags and pillows and food. And we had this, you know, and then they would just stay there. We're on about 90 acres of hikeable land. So everybody is self-sufficient, you know. The one thing that we have changed over the last 2 years is the website has been, like, I revamped the website last year. And now we have an online reservation system, and I got all of the pictures renewed and everything like that. So people really know what they're getting into. And mainly, I guess our age group is between 25 and 45, 50. And especially with the millennials, they want an experience. They want to experience something. It's not just, let's go to a hotel and order room service and woohoo, let's go into a hot tub. They want to experience something different. And so they come in with just seeing the pictures and going, oh man, we're just going to absolutely love this. And it's just a place for peace. And it's funny because a lot of people will come here, oh yeah, we're going to go to the spa, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then we're going to go to dinner, and then they get here, and they're going, yeah, we're just not going to do anything. Because doing nothing is an activity, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Relaxing, being able to take in the sights, enjoying nature, a place to unplug, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a big reason why like Airbnb has taken off so much in the last number of years, and they have like the Airbnb experience also, right? Like, so they have, you know, places you can stay as well as the experiences you can have. But I think, you know, experience comes with what we choose to put into it also, right? Like,
Precise.
you know, yeah, so so that's fantastic. So congratulations for gaining resort status, because you know when you start with a plot of land, you never know how it's going to turn out, right?
Yeah. Like
And you have to play your cards right in a lot of ways to get something like that.
well, it's the bureaucracy that we had to jump through the hoops, because originally we were classified as a camping, and we're not a camping, you know. So we were like, it was one full summer. It was the summer that Keith and I got married. Because they classified us as a camping, we were getting, I think he's getting about 60 phone calls a day. Where can I pitch a tent? Do you guys have hookups for RVs? Do you da 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 da? And it was just such an enormous waste of his time, unfortunately, because, you know, he's renovating the house, he's building another cabin, you know, the maintenance and everything like that. But as soon as we, like I looked into the bureaucracy of it, I looked into the laws, and Keith is very, very good because he worked for the municipality. So he's very good with his choice of words, the vocabulary that's used. And finally they said, you know what, Mr. Quebec, you're absolutely right. So that was 2 years ago. And now it's just, you know, finally we're getting like, we're getting the proper client, not the proper clientele. That's not a good word.
It's like the population that you're advertising to.
Precisely. Yeah. We're getting our key, the key type of, like the key people who are looking for this exact experience, you know? So, no, we're very happy.
So how do you, or how have you been, both of you, been navigating the challenges of what's been happening in the world right now, and how has that affected you, and how are you binding together as a family to face that?
The world is a scary place. It's a very, very scary place. And you know, it's really hard to explain. Like us bonding as a family, we're a very close-knit family, you know, our extended family, our in-laws, our, you know, everybody that's around us, our friends. And we do discuss it, but like Keith is usually, you know, like jammed up like this to BBC News every morning. And the only thing that we can do right now is to offer people a break from all of that insanity. And we don't look at the TV, and, you know, we watch like the news in the morning, and then we don't look at it after. We know there's a lot of strife, and the only reaction that we could have, and the only action that we can provide, is by saying, guys, come up, you know, come and get a taste of peace. Turn off your phones. You know, come and sit on the deck and have a beer, you know. If you, so it does affect us personally to a certain extent, but because we are, you know, as individuals, powerless for what's going on in the United States, for what's going on anywhere around the world, the best thing that we could do is be more nurturing and inviting to the strangers that we meet, the people that we interact with. It's saying hi to your neighbor as you're driving down, and he's going, who the heck is that? Oh yeah, that's them, you know. So saying hi to strangers on the street, you know. There's this wonderful man in the village of St Sauveur, and every Sunday he stands out with a little sign that says free hugs. And it is just so adorable. And when COVID came out, he still stood there, and then people would walk by and go, hi, You know?
Aw. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, we are affected by, we do a lot of discussing with the kids, you know, about what is going on. Lindsay, our youngest, always sits with dad and watches BBC, and dad'll pause it and go, yeah, well, you see, this is what's going on because of that, and that's what's going on because of that. And yeah, it all kinds of sucks, you know, but you know, look, we've got to take care of our own little corner of our world, and maybe that will help propagate, you know, the, a little bit of happiness for people around us and strangers, etc. You know, but we don't hide from it, certainly.
Right. So ultimately, you know, you're talking about keeping the conversations educational and open with the kids and within the family system,
Yeah,
and you know, the propagation that could come from that as you speak to friends or other close, you know, people in your lives.
yeah,
And I think that's wonderful, while also having this balance where, yes, you're informing yourselves of the news, but you're also taking that time to unplug and focus on your corner of your world, which
yeah,
is, you know, which is totally separate than what's happening in the United States today, right? And
yeah,
so it's about being able to see that there's so many facets to life that we have to pick and choose where we put our energy. And so it
yeah,
sounds to me like in your family system, you have a really nice balance of where you put that energy. And like you were saying with the girls on the, I don't know if it's a quad or some kind of motorized
yeah,
vehicle they were riding,
right,
right? Like your daughter is learning how to drive it, or is that what you said, right?
yeah,
And that's so cool. Like that being able to do that activity is like almost like we might consider that a state of flow. Like we
yes,
doing something like that is part of your corner of the world. It's not about being obsessed or getting lost in the despair of what is happening outside the world. But when she sits down and watches BBC with dad, and then there's these conversations that are happening, she's still being educated, she still knows what's happening in the world. And then you guys can talk about, like, are there anything that you can be doing to assist? And what you've said, what you're doing to assist is to invite people onto your land here and say, like, unplug, enjoy peace and quiet, find some sort of balance for yourselves.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I mean, balance is, well, especially in the city. I used to live in the city up until 2 years ago, and you get stuck in this rut of dysfunction, of
Mm-hmm.
discomfort and dysfunction, where it's lather, rinse, repeat constantly. And the fact that people are, and especially now, um, pardon me, because of COVID, especially now, people really, really need to get out, and they need to connect with nature. They need to get some form of grounding back. Um, and being in the middle of the forest, you know, is the most grounding things that you can do, you know, aside from sitting on the beach and meditating. Well, I'm all for that, but
Fair enough.
I do that right now. But you know, so it's about offering a grounding experience, and the more often than not, our clients will say, hey, why don't you guys come up and grab a beer? You know, we've got more than enough to eat, blah blah blah, you know. So we'll go up and we'll have a beer with them, or sometimes they'll come down and, you know, they'll sit at the other side of the deck and we'll sit at our side of the deck, and we'll just, you know, chew the fat. And you know, so what, tell me about your life, and you know, so what do you do? And you know, so it's like, when we were allowed to give hugs, I was always giving people hugs when they
Mm.
left, but I'm not
Yeah.
allowed to give hugs anymore. So, you
Yeah.
know, so it's, but
Yeah. You
it's
know what?
about,
Go ahead. You go ahead.
no, 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 go, 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 go.
I was going to share an experience that you know, there a few years ago I went to Costa Rica, and I stayed in this I don't know that he had resort status or like what that meant, like in Costa Rica, but we stayed at this little, like, there was a bunch of little cabins on the same property, right? And so we stayed in one of those for like 3 weeks, and it was really neat because I offer digital counseling services, right? And so even while I was in Costa Rica, I still saw clients, but I saw clients from his balcony on his
Yeah,
house. So it's a similar kind of thing. And what you're talking about is you're like, you get to know the guests who are staying. And I remember it was, as a traveler, like I didn't speak the language. I didn't really, I didn't know much about the culture. Like I was really excited to be there and I learned a ton while I was there, but I was still able to connect with this family in
Yeah.
such a cool way while, you know, obviously still doing my work, but my work was like this conduit to being able to get to know this family. So much so that at one point I cut my finger open on a can or something while I was helping to cook a meal, and I was bleeding everywhere, and I ran up to the main house and I was like, ah, and then his mother, who spoke no English, was like, oh, you know, she was giving me these hand motions, and and so I went into the house, into like the kitchen, and she like sprayed it with some, I didn't know what she was doing, but she was doing something, and she bandaged it up, and she was like, you know, there you go. And I was so grateful, but we didn't speak to each other at all. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's just like my experience of what you're saying. And that, as a traveler myself, to be able to go to this place where all these cabins are, and be able to connect with the main family home. There's kids running around, and there was like dogs as far as I can remember. And it was just a wonderful experience. So it's not like, you know, where some people go to like a hotel, for example, and they don't get to know anybody. They're just,
Oh, sorry, my husband's phone was ringing. Sorry
no,
about
that's
that.
okay.
Please go
It's
on.
like, you don't get to know anybody. Like there is this massive value in being able to say, hey, like, let's get to know each other. Tell me about your travels. And this is what travelers, like I haven't traveled a lot, but a little bit. And as a traveler, when I'm doing that, meeting fellow travelers or meeting the people who are hosting the, like the hostels, who run the hostels and things like that, it's like that we live for that stuff of meeting fellow travelers and people who have different experiences in different areas of the world. And so I know right now it's tough that we can't travel like outside of our provinces really. But yeah, I don't know what that's been like for you, but I anticipate, based on what you're saying, like you still have people who are coming and staying in your cabins despite the travel restrictions.
Well, we had very strict travel restrictions until June 1st. And
Okay.
because we have 5 very separate cabins, we had to change our protocols drastically. And I started changing them in February because I could see the writing on the wall. And so we had changed our protocols in February before we got shut down. And okay, like, you know, people from the same family have got to be here, you know, like no big groups, no this, no that. Let's try with it. But in February, there's a heck of a lot of social distancing going on anyways, because there's snow on the ground. But we're insanely busy right now. We are just insanely busy. Because the wonderful thing that has happened because of all of this terrible stuff is that Quebecers are finally discovering Quebec. They're finally discovering where they live and saying, you know, I've always wanted to go here. Why don't we go here? Because we can, you know. And the fact that like we opened June 1st, and it's just been insane. It's been absolutely insane. We're super busy. We're super happy about it. We're tired. It's only July 8th. You know? It's like, but you know, I just can't believe the amount of people that are coming that are calling us up and say, oh my God, that, you know, we did a search on the internet and we didn't even know that you existed. How long have you guys been here? We've had people from St. Jerome, which is only about 20 minutes away from here, going, I never knew you people existed. So, well, hey, why don't you come on up? You know, so we are strict on the way that we have to handle the protocols are the government issued protocols. And people are very, very respectful of that as well. They're just glad to get out of the city, you know, and just glad to, like, you know, they get out of their cars and they're going, is this for real? You know, I'm out of my condo, you know?
So just for demographic sake, I don't have a map in front of me, but are you closest to Montreal?
Yeah, we're 55 north of Montreal.
North of Montreal. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Yeah, so you know, especially like with the travel restrictions, like we can't say, oh hey, anybody living anywhere, like, you know, do your thing. And but if you are able to go and check out this resort, I would highly recommend it. Sounds fascinating. It sounds really aligned with the theme of the experience that I had in Costa Rica, right? And I loved that so much. I just felt like there was like a homey, like familial kind of feel to it, and it wasn't just like I enjoyed the trip with my partner, and it was like great to have it just the two of us, but I loved having this like safe place that also could help us out if we if we didn't know something, right?
Yeah.
And that was really effective. So if you're offering that to people, like that's just such a wonderful way to like get away and have a connection with other human beings, because the theme of the last few months has been isolation with our families, right? So if we can spread that out in a safe way, that can be really great for mental health.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've had, you know, we have people who've basically been in isolation with their families, you know, the parents and the kids. Yet the parents and the kids are still coming down here, and all you can hear is peals of laughter from up top.
Hmm.
You know, and we've got this little parkour, this little sort of like a little like tree to tree thing in front of the central building, and the kids are just constantly on there swinging around and everything like that. There's a lot of maintenance for me to do, because it's got to, you know, the disinfectant and the javel and everything like that. So, and that's an everyday thing. But just the peals of laughter coming from up top, that was the one thing that I missed the most about having to close for the 3 months that we were closed, was hearing the laughter of people, and
Yeah.
you know, and seeing them just walk down the path, you know, like as I'm sitting on my deck and we've got the little path that goes up the CHIMO just in front of us, and just seeing people doop, 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 you know, going to their cars. And we both really, really miss that. You know, we love each other, but you know, seeing each other's faces just constantly for 3 months was getting a little, yeah, I know you're cute. I know you're cute, but go away now, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's like that dynamic connection with society that was missing, and that is missing still for a lot of folks,
Yeah.
right? And figuring out how we can reconnect with friends and reintegrate into society in ways that are safe, because people are afraid still.
I
So
know.
I'm happy for you that there are people coming back in. It is busy. You're back to hearing that laughter and integrating with these people. You know, obviously in a safe way, because your protocols have changed and all of that. So that just sounds like a wonderful place to be for you and your family.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, the cool thing is our eldest Mirika is working for us, and her best friend Mia is working with us. So they both do about 10 to 12 hours a week, and it's giving them a chance to teach them a work ethic. And you know, okay guys, we got a schedule. I mean, I'm a pretty lax boss, to be honest, you know, but it's like, no guys, this is the way that you have, this has to be cleaned this way, exactly this way. And I'll go in
Yeah.
behind them and say, no, you missed a spot, and no, this is very important, and you know. So but it's teaching them a work ethic. You know, Mirika's 13 and her best friend is
Hmm.
16, and
Hmm.
Mia's already worked. But you know, from being like, between being a ski instructor and cleaning and sanitizing and everything else, it's funny because
Hmm.
the parents are going like, she never does that at our house. You know, I'm like, no, I know.
What a dream come true though for your daughter to work with her best friend. Like
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, right?
we try
Yeah,
to
I
separate
remember.
them
Yeah,
though.
well, yeah, that makes sense too. When I was a teenager, I worked in a movie theater, and I worked with my best friend, and then we had like more friends from our school come over, and like we're all 15 or 16 years old, and we're all like, we're going to this movie theater, like playing mini golf in the lobby when the movies were in, stuff like that. But it was a dream come true to work with my best friend at the time. Like it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been really great to have this conversation with you. I really want to reiterate um, the joy that I've experienced just watching your energy and being able to see the optimism that you show up with, and that just this view of not only your husband, but also of your ex-husband. Like you just come with a very positive outlook, and you're very respectful, and it shows that you
Thank you.
hold that respect for these people, right? And I think there's a lot that we as a society can learn from that, with the struggles that we face in
Yeah.
partnerships and things. I want to thank you too for sharing your vulnerability, and the personal information that you shared in terms of, you know, the divorce you went through, how hard that was. And you didn't shy away from any of the questions I asked. Sometimes I'm just like, hey, like, check out this really personal question, and then you're like, oh yeah, and then you just went along with it. So I'm just really moved by this conversation today, and I'm grateful for it. And we didn't know what this was going to look like, but it's
No.
just been a natural, kind of beautiful connection that has shown up.
Oh, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you just, taking the time and talking to me, and, just making the connection as well. It's been a beautiful experience, and I'll be a little less camera shy from now on.
Oh yes, I love it. That's wonderful. And I've been telling, so we have a gal who does our marketing. She's
Mhm.
like our marketing manager. And I did an interview with her too, but she actually lives in Montreal.
Mhm.
And Eleni, I apologize if you don't live in Montreal, but I think you live in Montreal. But I've never met her in person. Like, this is such a digital company that, but anyway, so she lives over there, and she's just wonderful. She does so much for us, and we've become closer and closer over the time that she's worked here. So I told her, I was like, I'm gonna come and visit you and like explore Montreal, and I can tell you for sure, without a doubt, that I will come and see you also, and
Oh, that would
stay
be
in your
amazing.
resort. Yeah, when I am able to do that. Now, with like what's happening in the world, we're not going anywhere, but
No.
at some point it is on my list to get on a plane and go over to Montreal. I've been there once before. I was riding a Greyhound through the country, and
Okay.
that was really interesting experience. But I didn't spend very much time there, and I loved it when I was there, but don't know the language, and I'm Canadian, and I don't have the French language, but that's okay. You can help me out.
Oh, you always meet bilingual people, and Montrealers
Hmm.
are a friendly bunch. We're a friendly bunch.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so that would be really, really neat. It might not be for, a few years to come, but when I see Eleni, I will make a point to come down and visit and stay over, and kind of, walk the land a bit, and see what you guys are all about. And without this conversation, like, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what you stood for. I didn't know really anything. And so not only have I learned a ton about you as a human being, and your viewpoints, and your vision, and your passion, and your demeanor. Uh, all of us who are going to watch this video, have learned about your organization, and how much love you've put into it, and what it stands for.
Oh, right on. I thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your energy as well. And I really look forward to seeing you in person, and we're not going anywhere. So,
No, I hope not. No, it
we
sounds like
gotta,
you're doing very well. So, Tracy, if you do know of anybody who would want to have a conversation of this nature with me about any
Mhm.
topic, that they are welcome to give me a shout, or you can text me, and we can get connected that way. But I do want to spread the strength, hope, and love that comes from each of these conversations, that has also come from this conversation with you. I want to spread that more and more as best we can. So if you know of anybody who wants to join the conversation, please let me know, let them know, get them in contact with me, just like Dave did with us, which I'm super grateful for. Dave has been very supportive of my vision here, and what I'm trying to portray to the world and trying to build. And I did an interview with him too, and he's just been so great. What a wonderful man,
Oh,
from what I've
so
learned about
amazing.
him, for
I
sure.
love Dave.
He is. Yeah, absolutely. So big shout out to Dave, and he does look at the things posted on our Facebook page, and so here's a shout out to Dave if you do watch this video. We
Yeah.
both
Hi,
think you're
Dave.
great. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll close it there. If you want to just follow us on Facebook, or you can just kind of take a look and see when it's posted. I imagine it'll be posted within the next week. And
Nice.
then you can share it. You can do whatever you want with this video. If you want a copy of the video itself, I'm happy to forward that to you. You can just send me a text and ask if you want to promote it or repurpose it in different ways. It's our content collectively, yours and mine. And so you can do what you wish with it.
Right on. Oh yeah, I would love that.
Cool. Very good, Tracy. Well, thanks again for this. And if there's anything else that comes up along the way, or you just want to drop a line and say hello, then please do so. And yeah, and then if I don't hear from you, that's okay. If we don't kind of lose touch, that's okay too. But I definitely will keep you on my bucket list for when I head out to the Montreal area.
Well, I don't think we'll lose touch, sweetheart. I'm not worried about that.
Oh. Well, it's really wonderful. So it was great to meet you. And yeah, we'll talk soon then.
Okay, so you have yourself a wonderful rest of the day and much love.
Thank you, Tracy. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.